I'm Wyatt Cash at Scoop News Group, and we're here with John Garrett, Senior Director, Federal Civilian Agencies at Dell Technologies, to talk about building a data-driven government. John, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me, Wyatt.
Well, let me start by asking, given the explosion of data from intelligent applications and infrastructure, what's your vision for what government agencies really need to do now to leverage data to become more data-driven?
Well, I think the COVID-19 pandemic taught us a lot last year as we changed. We talk about transformations here at Dell Digital, workforce, security, et cetera. It was a big workforce transformation last year, which I think led to a big digital transformation as well. As we hear on everything we watch and see, the explosion of data is absolutely happening. You got 1,000x more users creating 1,000x more data, and how do you deal with that? I think one of the biggest things that the agencies need to continue to work on their plan and strategy is around what workloads make sense in what place, right? And that could be on-prem, it could be hybrid, it could be public. But they need to be smart and have a great plan around how they're going to do that. It absolutely is something that's going to have to be worked through because traditional infrastructure of the past just simply won't scale to what's going on right now with the explosion of data.
Absolutely. Well, building on that then, what must agencies think about in this post-pandemic environment to manage, secure, and then analyze data that's, increasingly taking shape at the edge of their enterprise environments?
Well, I think if anybody's watching the news right now, cybersecurity has to be at the front of everything that's going on. It can't be a bolt-on. It has to be something that is thought through from the get-go. It can't be an afterthought. It's something that all agencies are going to have to figure out. So that's kind of first and foremost. And then I think the second one is, kind of going on the ever-changing, what the data center is going to look like or where your data is going to sit with the explosion of new algorithms and whatnot, and just such complex computing. High-performance computing, AI, machine learning, and then edge computing, which I know you and I have talked about before, are becoming more and more important. Specifically on edge computing, it's something that they're just going to have to look at because as some of these workloads become more and more complex, it becomes a physics problem. You can't move that amount of compute back and forth because latency issues to get the right kind of user experience that they're going to need. It could be a mission thing, could be a platform, a kinetic platform such as an airplane, or it could just be a massive data set, something like maybe the Social Security Administration or somebody who's dealing with the IRS. So yeah, cyber, and then what the actual infrastructure you're going to run your workloads on, I think are the two biggest things right now.
Well, and speaking of infrastructure, so how do you see the expected growth and distributed nature of digital workloads kind of reshaping the way agencies have to think about prioritizing their investments around on-prem, hybrid, and public cloud environments?
Yeah, I kind of go back to the cyber thing again. Obviously, nobody's budgets are really going up. When I talk to CIOs, CDOs, et cetera, they continue to tell me, that budgets are absolutely strapped. So they've got to be smart about where they're going to put the data. And there are some very inexpensive offerings out there on some of the public cloud offerings, which are great for some of those long retention. It could be a compliance thing around. You have to keep certain data for 7 years or something like that. And those workloads are going to make sense. Some of that most sensitive data, may make sense to sit on hybrid or probably on-prem, depending on how sensitive that data is. The most sensitive data, absolutely, at Dell Technologies, we believe is going to continue to sit on-prem. And if it's, national security level kind of stuff, it's probably going to sit in a air-gapped, off-network on-prem. So I think that's what the agencies, whether it's, the warfighter side or the, citizen services side are working through those things. But, the multi-cloud environment, I think is absolutely, I don't think, it is absolutely here to stay. We've seen agencies swing all public cloud, and then we've seen some swing all back on-prem. And at Dell Technologies, we absolutely believe it's going to land in the middle. It's going to be some kind of multi-cloud world. It's just the only way to support the environments that we're moving into right now.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, John, thinking about how digital transformation really helped agencies navigate through the pandemic. From your perspective, working with agencies, what can they do now to keep building on the sort of strides they've made supporting remote workers and also improving citizen services? What can they do to keep building on that?
Yeah, I think the pandemic taught us a lot of things. It was a challenging year. The supply chain got hammered last year. The biggest first thing we saw on the civilian side was the workforce transformation. A lot of agencies were not set up for their workers to be 100% remote. So that means, getting new end user devices out there, whether it's laptops, desktops, monitors, whatever, right? And then to your question, what does it take to support that infrastructure on that workforce transformation, all those new end user? So, you've got to be able to have latency non-issues if you're going to go VDI. You've got to have the applications running at tip top. And what does that remote experience look like versus when you're plugged directly into the, cable sitting inside the office? People, think through the PPP program. Small Business Administration had to get that done, or, half of the GDP, or half of the employees in this country are small business, and half the GDP comes from small business. Mm-hmm. So they had to get that PPP program up and running almost immediately to, for lack of a better word, save the nation. And it was, first part was getting the workforce, the end user devices out there, and the second part was building out the applications with the data center to support it. And that ended up being, as far as I can tell, a hybrid solution. Lots and lots of examples out there that it's just, it's other people are using their data around, they're partnering, like Department of Energy is partnering with the VA. The VA's got all this great data out there around soldiers and what's going on with them as they're coming back from the battlefield. And the Department of Energy is looking at that data they can look at case notes and see if somebody's susceptible for suicide. So they're using AI algorithms to work with the VA, and they've proven that they're saving lives. So I think you're seeing more people get smart around things like that and how they're using that data and their algorithm, and they're using high performance computing and AI to run those kind of things to help improve what it's going to look like for the citizens of the U.S. and just the remote workers of the government.
Well, John, Garrett, thank you for sharing some of those insights and examples with our audience, and just taking time to join us today to talk about building a data-driven government and why that's so important and where we go from here.
Well, as always, Wyatt, thank you. Good seeing you.
Likewise. Take care.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.